Hi, my name's Eileen Grace, and I'm the program manager for Paint on Port, the mural program out of Port Washington, Wisconsin. The mural program's been in existence for 3 years. We started in 2023 with an idea that the city had that they wanted to bring more visual arts to Port Washington. And so the city got together with Port Main Street Committee, Port Main Street Inc., and asked if they would be interested in kind of managing or spearheading the program, and that's when they invited me to join as a program manager. So that was way back in the beginning of 2023, even a little bit before that when planning began, and the first thing we did was form a 11-person committee that has run this program for the last 3 years. It's been very community focused, and our goal was to put up at least 3 murals a year. We actually exceeded our goal and put up 13 murals in the course of 3 years that are throughout the town and from a variety of artists to showcase all different kinds of visual arts. The work was a huge success, but it was also a combination of lots of community help. We could not have done this without the community. We early on decided we wanted a community wall, so each year we did a community-focused mural that the community members together with our committee to produce a piece of art that has been phenomenal. The experience working with the committee has been probably one of the biggest highlights of this program, and meeting people in a different area than you might normally meet and having them express themselves through art was really a beautiful part of this program. We worked with adults with disabilities for the first year on our community wall. The second year was all of the students throughout the district, and the third year was all the general public, and a lot of senior citizens worked on the project, as well as young and old alike. It's been a great endeavor, and I think that if you see the murals throughout this, you'll really see the beauty that was created through a team of people.
So that very first mural is Global Roots Mural Mosaic, and that one happens to be the Midwest Mural Mosaic. It is an international mural project run by a group of artists from Canada. And how we got involved in that is I had purchased a tile before any of this started. It was something I was already interested in. It came across my Facebook feed and I was like, oh, that looks fun. And then kind of at the same time, our executive director for Downtown Port was looking for a community art project. So I said, check this out. And that led Downtown Port to buy about 150 tile packets, and then we sold them at our arts festival. We did a community tile where I asked the participants if they were interested in community art to put their fingerprint on it. And so it was a guided fingerprint sunset tile. Very cool, it's in that mural down there. And then what happened was we actually got picked out of 11 states, and I don't know how many cities that submitted to showcase that mural. So then they came and installed it, and we did a big unveiling in April on that. And that's kind of what started off we then launched our whole Paint on Port project. Try to get some people behind it. It was very exciting. It's all very exciting. Very exciting. My name is Wendy, and I'm one of the organizers with Paint on Port. Our committee is going to do 4 to 5 murals every year for the next 3 years. This year, next year, and the year after. And every year there'll be a community mural. This is a community mural, all painted with our adult participants from Balance and Prime Horizon, and it is a true labor of love. We've been painting for about 3 months.
Hi, my name is Rodrigo Santamaria. I'm part of the committee of Paint on Port Murals, and this is the first community wall that we're painting in 3 years. I'm also the art coordinator for Balance and Prime Horizon, which is a day program for adults with disabilities. and we have been painting this wall. All the adults from the day programs have been participating actively in all the process, and we just wanted to show what the state of Wisconsin means to us, all the traditions, heritage, landmarks, icons, sports, and of course all the values and feelings that they make this community as beautiful as it is.
We put a call for artists out in March, and we got about 70 plus submissions, very different from all over the country, and we had a process of elimination, and then we narrowed it down to about 12 that were submitted to a juried committee of stakeholders in our community, tourism, city administration, aldermen, historical society, myself. And from that, we kind of talked about it and voted and landed on the 3 artists that we have. We have Dustin Eckhart, who is from Illinois, and he is painting on Park Street.
My name is Dustin Eckhart. I'm an artist, muralist from Rockford, Illinois. Here to work on Paint on Port, or POP, which is a mural program that'll be taking place over the next few years that includes community walls, commissioned artists, murals, and much more than that. I'm a bit of a ecological inspired artist. I like to go outside and learn about the different biodiversities that are around us. So for this one, in instance, I was given a list by locals of what grows around here for different flora and fauna. I incorporated like a wood violet and the robin being the state flower and bird as well. But everything else that's on here can be gone and found at local preserves or even on the block around here where we're at. I like to use really vivid colors. I am actually partially colorblind, only with a few different shades, but I go and I plan everything ahead of time, and I'll take all the colors into my iPad and sort of get a layout that I think complement each other well, and sort of plan out that, and then I go over to like a Blick Art Materials or order online and pick out ones that I think fit the range.
And we have Britt Flood from North Carolina, and she is painting downtown Port Washington on what everyone knows as the Useldings building. That is on Franklin Street.
Hi, my name is Britt Flood. I'm an artist based in North Carolina, and today and this week I'm working on my first mural in Wisconsin. Super excited to be here for Paint on Port. This piece is going to be a romantic ode to the water and why we're all kind of drawn to the water for our own personal reasons. And it's going to feature some native fish like Chinook salmon, rainbow trout, and we're going to have some sunset gradients as an ode to the beautiful sunrises here that I've seen a couple of already. So I'm on day 2 and should be done by the 2nd. And there are 3 of us artists this week contributing murals in town. So super excited to be here and feel super lucky to contribute to this spot. It's such a great spot, so yeah.
And then we have John Kowalczyk, who is from Milwaukee, and John is painting down at 201 North Franklin, and that is the Yummy Bones building. And there was no real reason that we picked anyone in particular. It was really just the feeling that each submission evoked, and their depth and sometimes their experience. We'd go back and look at their other works to see where they were at, and you know, we fell in love with the 3 we have.
This particular mural is a community project with all the school kids, K through 12. And they've done a lot of work, which will be added to this. Plus, they've also been working on this, but clay pieces, painted items, all kinds of stuff. So if you watch it progress, you'll see all that happen. Yeah, it's a long process. Sherry, the one next to me, created this whole mural concept and designed it and orchestrated all the work in the schools. Very labor intensive.
This is the Branching Out mural, and it is our second community mural. It was designed by me, and as a retired art teacher, I made the decision to bring the student wall here. And our team is, I have 6 artists that I'm working with, and our team goes into the schools, and we've worked at every school in the district, so Port High, TJ, Lincoln Elementary, Dunwoody, Saukville Elementary, and St. John the 23rd. And students have created what's called polytab, which is painting. They've created ceramic pieces to create a giant mosaic, and they have painted and primed this particular mural. So it's been a really fabulous collaborative effort. The students come down on their block day on Wednesday, and they are here for about an hour starting at about 11:15, and they go back up to school and wash out all their paintbrushes.
I think I feel like everyone can get involved in it, and it kind of brings people together, you know, it's like a common goal.
Hi, my name's John Kowalczyk, and I'm an artist and muralist from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and today I am painting this awesome pump house here in downtown Port Washington. This was just a little kind of brick building that didn't have a lot of color or much going on, and they just recently developed this large building behind us, and the owner of that building decided to sponsor a mural to go on this one. And it kind of tells some of the history of Port Washington. So we have the light station that's going on this side. The Gibson factory will go around the corner here. A tractor that used to be manufactured at the Gibson factory will go on this side. It's a tractor from 1926. There's an octagonal barn on the back that kind of references some of the historical octagonal barns. And we wanted it to have sort of a modern feel with some historical elements. So it'll have some of these geometric shapes and patterns and things going on, but it'll make kind of the farmland landscape, and then some of the harbor and some of the bluffs and things like that as well. And the mural will wrap all the way around the building, so you'll be able to kind of walk around and see the whole thing when it's done.
Yeah, I live in Guadalajara.
Okay. Have you been to Port Washington before?
No, this is my first time.
How did you find out about this?
Well, a friend shared me the contest, and I applied. Yeah, well, it's inspired by the Michigan Lake, and it's gonna be like the lake with some animals, like native birds and fishes from the area. The name of the mural is "Freedom is a Natural Right for Every Being," and I choose that name because I believe that all living beings have the right to live freely in their natural environment without being affected by anyone. All of nature is free, and we as humans still have much to learn from it. This mural, when it's finished, is going to have a QR code to be interactive, and because it's gonna have augmented reality. So if you scan the QR code and scan the mural, something is gonna happen.
Hi, my name is Helena Martin. I'm painting a mural I just finished a mural for Paint on Port in Port Washington, Wisconsin. I'm from Queensland, Australia, but I was born and raised in the Midwest in Michigan, actually. I have painted murals all over the world. I started off as a kid just really liking to paint, but I didn't want to be a starving artist, so I went and pursued other things for a while, and I got a bachelor's and master's in science. But then I ended up turning to graffiti because I wasn't happy with my life. And then I got arrested, and it made me rethink things and about vandalism and how it wasn't right to do graffiti. But I learned so many cool skills with cans that I took those technical skills I learned to translate into murals. And most of my murals reside in Texas. That's where I was residing in the last 10 years, in Austin, Texas. So I have a lot of murals there, but I have them throughout the country and in the world. I have murals in Vietnam, in Australia, and throughout the United States. So this mural is inspired by Shirley Groon, a prominent artist in Port Washington who passed away recently. She really, really loved this town, and all of her work pays reverence to that. If you look at her work, it's mostly just landscapes of Port Washington. So I wanted to bring elements of her work into this mural. So the St. Mary's Church, I think that's where Shirley got married herself. The courthouse, and then the marina of Port Washington. These are staples of Shirley's work that you'll see in this mural.
My name is James Baraney. I am a professor of first-year experienced muralist. I kind of help run boot camp at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, help get students who are coming right out of high school acclimated for professional collegiate studies in art and design for the rest of their career. And then I teach advanced classes, drawing and painting, anatomy for me, and then also advanced animation at times. So I have been doing murals, public murals, since 2017, and all of mine, very much like most of my studio work, have a rich history in history. I'm very concerned to tell the narrative, the inclusive narrative and diverse narrative of each community that I serve. So this one is fun because obviously we're on a port city, so you have a huge mariner theme here. So ships became, and the idea of vessels on the water was a big theme. I went as far back as indigenous culture. We found some great reference prints of Menominee and Winnebago, which would have been akin to this area, using, not in the lake obviously, but using canoes to harvest rice in nearby plateaus. So we incorporated that, and then you have a couple of, this community has a couple of famous ship sinkings that have happened, so I had to do a lot of research. One tragically burned, and several lives were lost at the lake. So we have recreated that moment in the mural. The ship is on fire, struggling to stay afloat. And then as the composition segues to the side, the stoic turn-of-the-century lake house is incorporated that's still in your harbor. And the waves are just pounding it without mercy. Seagulls are flying rampant in the sky. And then as the water's calm, you see a schooner. So then we start to make a transition in time. And the schooner what follows that then are calmer waters, the sky, less angry, more a beautiful kind of a Wisconsin sunset. And then there's a huge focus in the mural of three individuals, a woman, an older gentleman, and a young boy with a dog sitting on one of the piers, kind of showing their trophy of fish that they've caught. And then as we segue all the way out, we see the actual marina, and with the older historic buildings, all the federal design and the simple slap-up kind of townhouse, row house kind of situations that we were able to find. And then I believe maybe from the 50s or 60s, we found in one of the archives in Port Washington a beautiful, very long, stretched out rowboat getting fixed. I believe it's a rowboat or a boat or a skiff. And there's a gentleman in there kind of wrangling with things. And that's what harbors at the very, very end before we get to the end of the lighthouse. These images are built in Photoshop, manipulated digitally, and then what I do is I use an Italian Renaissance grid transfer system, so that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And each square, if it's blue sky, the water crashing, or somebody's face, every square has kind of an allocated area. And then what'll happen after I grid, it'll start to look like a stained glass window. I do an underpainting process where it's very chunked out in colors, but that's all been predetermined to add structure underneath what goes on top, and that's what I call the top coat. That's where I get all of the detail, and I can focus in on the embellishment. So what I'll do is I'll work about 10 feet of underpainting, come back, work almost up to that point with the top coat, and then just keep working down the wall. And then when I'm getting close at the end of the mural, that'll be kind of a dance. I'll be walking around with specific colors, back and forth. The grid will be gone. It will be completely embedded into the image. And then just kind of using my skills that have been taught to me over years and years, just working it like a painting. Is this coming forward enough? Because at a certain point, the digital composition just gets us to an idea. It still becomes a painting. So you're always gaining something and losing something in that translation process. And I believe we started this process with a committee from the community, I'd say almost 4 years ago. And originally I was slated to do a different building, but they found this one and they thought my concept would be a better placed position here. So I've been waiting patiently to come to port and start this process. And it's kind of all coming to a full head right now. So we'll see how much I get done. This is a rare bird that I'm not on a lift. It's really nice not being on a lift, but it also has its challenges because I have to do a ton of push-ups and get up and down and constantly be on the ground here. So we'll see how the speed, the growth and development of this happens. But obviously I'm also, I'm completely at service to the weather. So I'm at a point now that in the process, this is very clear and evident, but what you have in front of me at the moment, I have 8 feet by 8 feet by 10 feet or so of this underpainting, which is when I take the final design, fractalize it, put it through a couple of different modifications in Photoshop, so it breaks it down to planar form and color. And now the transition is also in color because the background still retains color, but we have new portraits where we're removing the color, and you're going to see more achromatic or black and white all the way down that rest of the wall. My next task here, I'll remove the tape so I can see where my gridding is, and then this is the gentleman holding his trophy trout, smoking his stogie. But I'll start to find edges and line work and start to pull him out, almost like a drawing process. Not that I'm gonna draw it, but I will be finding those edges and those contours and then deepening and enriching the tones, any of the texture on the fish, modeling. If I can't see something, I'll model it or find something to help support what's going on here. But once I get the line work done, just like I'm doing with her, then I'll start to tonally enhance him in the same way. And she looked the exact same way the last time I was here. It was all fractal glass, it looked like a shattered window, and slowly the development happens. So this is that underpainting process, the top coat, and then at the very end I float for a day or two and just tweak and finish things as I feel that they should be, because at that point the entire design has been laid out and it belongs where it needs to be for correct proportions. From time to time when I'm using historic photographs and I really like the essence or the feel that's coming from the photo, especially emotionally, it's really important to me. I'll notice sometimes the photos are really granular. They might be from an old daguerreotype or tintype, and no matter how much I zoom in, I can only make out the most faint, even if I do a contrast and adjustment, which I have done on this original image. I'm just showing you the original. There's a lot of information here, but there's a lot hidden. Another tool I have been having a lot of success with, I might take a section of an image, let's just say the dog as an example, and I'll bring that dog, that photograph in from AI, into AI rather. I'll bring the photograph, the original document, into AI and ask it, tell it exactly what I want to do, give it a prompt, and then ask it if it can render a slightly better version or a more defined version. And so now I work back and forth between the version that AI gave me and the actual photograph. So I have a compromise between the two. I find this connected oddly to AI in a futuristic manner, but I'm using it in a very specific way because I'm not asking it to generate a dog. I'm saying, take this image and give me modifications if you could. So I did a little bit of that with the dog, a little bit with the modeling on the boy's face, because the boy's face is almost completely blurred in the photograph. And this way it gives me something to respond to when I'm doing my final painting, coming back and forth. Now, these are all beautifully structured for me, and I can come back in and articulate moments very specific, while other moments will be very fluid. And that's how my work goes. There'll be moments that are just extremely tight and rendered, and then it just dissipates into mark making. Now we're getting into the kind of the last third segment here, and where I'm at this point is following the underpainting. I come in with linear structure, pull out the linear structure, and then I'll come back later this afternoon and start really modeling it through paint to make things three-dimensional and give it a sense of color and light. But something that's been happening that I'm super excited about, so many community members have been coming up wanting to share their own personal history with this marina, because this now opens up. We have the coal dock, one of the vessels that would have hauled coal, and this was taken right out of one of the historic archives that I found in the community. The only one I could find, however, was black and white, wonderfully documented, but very limiting in its manner that I only have one image to work from. Black and white, everything in that tonal range can be determined. You can determine a color from it, but it's very difficult work. So wouldn't you know, a retired police officer came up and he had multiple color shots of this entire area. At some point in the 80s, there was kind of a massive overhaul of some of these buildings, and some of the space was redesigned. So now I have all the evidence of color. I have even more artifacts of other boats that were in the area. So I'm excited because I could add more believable artifacts into this painting, which is already based in truth. But doing that and using the community's involvement and input is fantastic. So that has been a wonderful godsend with this part of the process. The harbor, the marina area here in Port, I'd say probably circa 1985, in the ballpark of that time period. Again, using some local photos that were just given to me, which have allowed me to reference color. So now the color is going to slowly start to dissipate and fade out as we get to the bow of our skiff here and the rowboat that the gentleman is fixing. And what's going to happen here is the water is going to be our segue. It's going to transition. The reflections that we can't see are showing up, the coal mining apparatus, etc. There's things here that aren't visible above but are visible in the reflection, which I think is important. And as we continue to segue further and further, the color will slowly fade away. We have a couple of Easter eggs hidden within this experience, little moments of articulation. There'll be people in a car, somebody else on a bicycle, etc. And then the background will just kind of, again, fade away so that we focus on this rowboat, which again was placed here to compositionally balance the beginning of the mural on the top of the hill, which is a very long stretched out canoe paying homage to the indigenous Potawatomi, Ojibwa, and the Menominee that are here. So this is a big area of transition, and it's extremely complicated to paint because it's all reflection. So I'm painting things upside down and inversed in an inverse manner. And not only are the elements reflecting, but I have to think about what the sky color would be. And again, we use this kind of beautiful Wisconsin sunset embedded into the image. So you're gonna see a lot of pinks, possibly some oranges mixed in with the greens and the purples. Almost a beautiful triangle of the secondary colors, orange, purple, and green, kind of flaring up and then fading out until we get into what's called achromatic, just black and white transition. And that'll sum up the entire thing. So we'll go from about 1835 to approximately 1980-85, and that's the entire swath of time that this image depicts moments of Port Washington's history.
I'm John Kowalczyk, and I'm a muralist. This is my third mural I'm doing here in Port Washington. The first mural I did was 2 years ago, and it's on the back of the old Yummy Bones barbecue restaurant. It is called Take Flight. It features some birds and butterflies that are native to Port Washington, and a set of hands that are actually making the butterfly symbol in American Sign Language. And last year I did a mural right in the marina parking lot, which features the Gilson factory, the light tower, the lighthouse, one of the tractors that was made in one of the factories here in 1948, an octagonal barn that is kind of specific to this area, so some different historic elements of Port. And today I'm installing this mural on the staircase, which I actually designed and painted in my studio. I painted on a material that's kind of like an exterior wallpaper, and it's applied with this acrylic gel medium glue. So it'll last a while and it won't chip off or anything like that. And it is some different historic fishing businesses that used to be right here, located where these buildings are now. So we have Ewig Brothers and we have Smith Brothers. There's a creek and a bridge from this area, some fishermen, just kind of highlighting the fishing industries here in Port Washington. And the way this mural is designed, it's kind of an optical illusion. So when you stand across from in the park over there down the staircase, every piece will kind of line up and come together. But it's also designed just to look good from every angle. But again, once you hit the perfect spot, kind of farther back, the picture will come together like a puzzle or an optical illusion.
Greetings! We're live here at the Javadoc building, also known as Old Theater Square building, installing the new mural of phase 3 of the mural project. We've got a panel mural here.
Okay,
Hi, my name is Kelly Meredith, and I am working on what's called the Ozaki Theater mural. This building was once the Ozaki Theater way back in the day, and if I understand correctly, it was had one of the first talkies in Ozaki County. So this kind of commemorates a pseudo opening night of the first talkie. And there's a poster around the corner will be a poster of that movie, and it's the name of the movie is Alias Jimmy Valentine. So they had some the committee itself had done some historical research on this theater and this particular movie. And originally the concept was to depict a ticket booth and people standing in line buying a ticket. Because portraiture is a really great fundraiser, I had a basic concept that the committee approved. Then the committee set about to sell the faces, meaning you could be one of the people on this mural. So people submitted photos of their loved ones, and then they were superimposed on 1920s sort of bodies. So there are 10 people here, I believe, and I have a couple of just generic people that I picked myself, just to kind of help fill things in. This is done on what's called ACM. It's short for acrylic composite medium, and it's a really nice thin panel that you can just then screw into the wall. I know most of the Paint on Port murals have been done on site. The nature of my life, I was not available to paint on site. I run a gallery in my town, and summer's a really big time. I can't leave, and I've been helping out caring for my mom. So the committee allowed me to do these panels in my studio, and then I drove them down yesterday, and now Andy and his father are kindly installing them, and they're doing a fabulous job. It's very nice. I have been a professional mural painter for 27 years. This is my 162nd mural. My murals are all over the upper Midwest. Furthest away is Belize. Furthest west would be Nebraska. Furthest east would be Indiana. And 99% of them are of this genre. They are of historical nature. That's how I kind of got my start. So it's a lot of research and looking up historical figures and historical photos and historical clothing and historical buildings. And so this is the bulk of my work. I also sideline as a landscape artist, landscape painter. I have a small gallery in Butternut where my studio is also, called Fanatical Fish. You can Google that. So in my studio, I have a 24-foot, 12-foot high work wall. So at a crack, I can do a section that's 12 feet by 24. And so what I do is just simply screw it literally into the wall, paint. When I'm done, take it down, and then put it in a vehicle and transport it here. So it's very convenient. When I bought my studio and created the gallery, it's nice to be available to run the gallery and work at the same time. So that's kind of slick. But more importantly, to be honest with you, the longevity of this is way better. No matter how copiously you prep brick, you can do everything to just complete industry standards. But brick is very, very porous, and eventually it will absorb moisture, and eventually the paint will peel. This, I'm giving it about at least a 20-year lifespan. It's basically an acrylic product, so it's not going to burn, it's not going to warp, it's not going to rot. There's a good sealer on here, so it should never fade. So I like the longevity of this. It allows you to do much more detail. If I had to paint all this on this brick wall, I would not be able to maintain the level of delicacy, like the stencil letters and the detail of the faces, because you just get all that texture, and that kind of messes up everything. So that perfectly smooth, pristine surface is really nice to work on. So this is my preference. So when people come to hire me, this is basically, I say, kind of how it has to be. I do make exceptions. Sometimes I do work on site if it's an indoor project and it has like a nice, a really smooth, pristine wall as well. But for the most part, no, this is how I go. This is how I rock. Okay, knock that out.
So these are our parents, Esther and Larry Verhan, who Esther is the daughter of William Robe over here, and William and Rosalia kind of ran this theater for a good portion of its life. And my mom and dad, Esther and Larry, helped out. They hung the signboards when they changed the movie listings. They cleaned the aisles. They swept between the benches and the seats. So they were very They helped an awful lot. Helped Granny and Grandpa.
They were very involved.
Very involved in it, yes.
This is my father, Nick Didier, born in 1914 on a farm just north of town. Lived here his entire life, except for a few years when he was at the University of Wisconsin on the boxing team. After college, went and worked for Alice Chalmers until the war. Came back and started farming and was a farm and real estate broker, also an auctioneer. One of the first realtors here in the city of Port Washington, and stayed doing it right up until his passing in 1975.
About 68 and 48 for 10 on each side.
Yeah, this is my mom, and she passed away 3 years ago now.
March 12th of 22.
And this is where the movie theater was, so back in what, the 40s you guys would go to movies here?
Yeah.
And it looks just like her.
This is our youngest son, Jonathan Knightsky. He passed away 7 years ago. And he loved going to the movies. When he was 4 years old, the first time I took him to the movies, he never sat down. He was enthralled with Star Wars. So he loved going to the show.
So she does impressive work, and we, as the building owners, are happy to be displaying her art, and I think as a community we're excited to be displaying her art.
This year, culminating in 3 years, is our historical mural program. In that program, we have a community mural that is going to consist of 15 additional murals inside the larger mural. This is the background of that mural. It is a feeling of the city that we love. It's beautiful lake, it's Seven Hills, our nature, our Cream City brick, and our beautiful sunrises and sunsets. How those individual pages will fit is we use a product called Polytab. These individual pieces will be painted on what these artists are doing here, and then that piece will get adhered to the main wall. It is called Pages of Port Washington. Its idea is simple. There are children under a tree reading a book. A September breeze comes along and starts blowing those pages out of the book, and those pages then get scattered all over this mural as the pages of Port Washington. 4 of these murals are being designed and then painted by our community. One that we're doing here is with our seniors in the Port Washington area. Our artist Colin helped me design this page called Then and Now. It is going to be an image, a painting of Port Washington in the 1900s, early 1900s, and then on the right side, Port Washington today.
I worked with Wendy to design the Then vs. Now idea, so she had contacted me that she was creating a mural on the side of Chocolate Chisel, and that this was the 3rd year of the Paint on Port of Port Washington. So I had seen these murals pop up over the past 2 years, and I actually was trying to help and be involved in community art. So I went to school at Peck School of the Arts in Milwaukee, and I have a Bachelor's of Art in Studio Art. So I've been trying to use that degree and use it within a sense, or use it in a sense of community.
So this is it's our 5th time with a senior paint. This is our 4th and final here at the Port Washington Senior Center. And these ladies today are working on some detailing of the page called Then and Now, so that there's a little bit of a feeling about the past meeting the present. And down in this area here, we'll be painting 2 people, one from the past and one from the present, who will be shaking hands as if we're shaking hands with the past. This year is about history, and we want people to understand that we're all here, and we're all here together, and we're here on the backs of other people, and we're gonna move forward on the same people who are here today. And that is the piece of this page that, to me, is the most important.
Why we have a solid thing and then we add.
I think you guys are doing a great job. It looks great. You can hand it to the kids. Yeah.
I have a cell phone.
Great. I'd like to.
I don't know, maybe this is a different color. That isn't good enough color.
I don't know. That's the top of a roof and that's the top of a roof.
Not that it's great, but great, and you probably understand what I mean, and knowing that other people were feeling the same thing and who've been doing it for years.
So this started at Harbor Campus, and the thing that I love the most is that the oldest person that is painted on this mural is Evelyn at 103 years old. And she painted those bricks over there. And then Jerry, who was 98, came in and painted bricks. And it just makes my heart happy that they've been able to come in and create and set color, and it's a true collaboration with our seniors.
So this is going to be part of the community mural, and this is West Slip, circa 1983. And we started working on this mural that Sherry Kulchin designed in Port Washington High School in the spring with some of the art kids. They signed up for a resource and they came in and they did the majority of the base coat of this mural. So now we're in Studio 224, the basement of the burner building, and we're putting on the finishing touches so that this can be installed on the chocolate chisel building. And we're just working on some detail things. We've got a little bit of the boats here. We've got some of the iconic landmarks, some of the iconic boats from back in the day. We've got some people fishing and kind of walking around the downtown area. We obviously have the lighthouse, we've got a sailboat, we've got the coal dock here, and we've got a lot of the fishing area going on.
So a call for artists went out, and then what we ended up doing is the artists chose images based on 4 different themes. We put together pieces from memory. So this circa 1983 piece is my parents' boats. My husband was working at Smith Brothers at the time, and I put together this piece from memory and then gathered a whole bunch of photos from my parents and from the Historical Society. So those were my resources, and then I submitted this piece. And then when Madison came in, Madison chose the churches of Port Washington, and she ended up collaging together all of the churches, used the actual resources of photos of the churches for her piece.
I am doing a piece with the churches in Port Washington, and it's actually right on there, Port Washington, a city of churches, and I'm doing pretty much our iconic and well-known churches in our city and capturing each one of them.
So I'm doing detail work, hopefully the final layer on this part of the mural. I'm going by this picture here.
I'm taping off the map of Port Washington. And in these spaces, we're going to whitewash over the top so that we can write the 7 hills, because this is called the City of 7 Hills, and each hill is represented in the City of 7 Hills map.
I'm helping her making this piece about the history of the Breakwater Lighthouse. So it has this icon of the city has been gone through so many changes from early in the century and past century. So I kind of like to want to resemblance this evolution, changing the color of the sky, changing the style of the painting, kind of like making like a collage of rib pages from the beginning when it was just like made with wood, then it became metal, and we have some seasons when it's a rusty lighthouse. The top of the lighthouse changed too, and now with more modern days how it's looking. And also I'm adding a little piece of our logo, kind of like just mention it, and like mentioning all the work that not only the committee has done, but also all the volunteers and community pieces from all around town. So these pieces of the community mural is about recreation and entertainment in Port Washington. So John, which is a participant from Prime Horizon, he actually helped in the community mural 2 years ago. So he has been helping me putting together all the pieces, designing and sketching and painting this piece. And it's just a resemblance of all the elements that get families together in town, like some sports, the city band on the band shell, the beer garden, bird watching, some reference from our most popular parks here in town.
So this part of our mural project is pertaining to our ancestors' tree. We painted a background for the pages of Port Washington that is big water, big land, big sky, big tree. And it is a watercolor background, and to transition to more realistic looking leaves, we decided to use the polytab. All of the leaves that you see have been hand drawn and hand cut and then hand painted individually. They will then be applied to the mural, and the bigger maple leaves like this and the bigger oak leaves like this, we built in a fundraiser where you could leaf a legacy. Meaning if you were born here or planted roots here, you could buy a leaf, put your name on it, and then that is going to become part of the tree, those leaves blowing on the wind. The ancestors tree, to me, is where this whole mural started, in trying to establish roots. If you've planted roots, if your roots were just here, inside of that ancestors tree will be the image and the spirits of the early settlers, Worcester Harrison, and some of the other squatters that helped found Port Washington.
What I did was I came up with the concept, and then I brought it up to the committee, and they approved this idea of a photo album page of different women in history. So this is 1860, the first woman lightkeeper, and this is 1899, where the Women's Club started the first library in Port Washington, Wisconsin. In 1932, two things happened simultaneously in Ozaukee County. The Women's Club started the Garden Club in order to teach gardening lessons to Port Washington and also to grow flowers and beautify the city. And they also started the Ozaukee County 4-H. So these women, even though they weren't able to vote yet, they gathered together in groups because they knew they were intelligent and smart and had things to add to the world. And they did. I think it's exciting to know that the Women's Club started the first library. Now I'm focusing on trying to bring them to life with paints and learning painting in the process. It was a really amazing process to be part of, to see how a group can accomplish really big things together that would be really hard for just one person.